I stole the spotlight at my cousin's perfect wedding, and it destroyed everything. What started as a single awkward moment spiraled into accusations, secrets, and a family torn apart. I should have known this wedding was going to be a disaster the second I opened the invitation. Please join us in celebrating the union of Emily and Ryan. That was it. No handwritten note, no, can't wait to see you there. Just elegant golden calligraphy on a pristine white card. Emily always had a way of making everything look like it belonged on Instagram. Even her wedding invitation felt more like a marketing brochure than a personal message. Emily is my cousin. And if there's one thing to know about Emily, it's that she thrives on perfection. She was the family's golden child, the straight-A student, the beauty pageant winner, the girl who landed internships at big companies before she even graduated college. She wore her success like a crown, and for as long as I can remember, I was cast as the awkward sidekick in her story. Our family dynamic has always been complicated. I was never the favorite child. My mom did her best to love me equally, but every holiday dinner was a reminder of how Emily shined while I faded into the background. When she posted about her engagement last year, a picture-perfect moment with Ryan kneeling in front of her on a cliff at sunset, I wasn't surprised. It was so Emily. But when I received her wedding invitation, I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't really invited because she wanted me there. I was invited because leaving me out would have looked bad. My mom, of course, was thrilled. "You're going, right, Darcy?" she asked over the phone one night, her voice filled with excitement. "It's Emily's big day. We need to be there for her." "Yeah, Mom. I'll be there," I said, trying to sound neutral. "Wear something nice, sweetheart. Emily's wedding is going to be huge." That was an understatement. The venue was like something out of a bridal magazine. When I arrived on the big day, I stepped out of the Uber and stared at the sprawling countryside estate, complete with perfectly manicured gardens, towering oak trees, and hundreds of string lights weaving through the branches. White floral arrangements were everywhere, roses, lilies, orchids, and a massive tent had been erected for the reception. I suddenly felt self-conscious about my simple burgundy dress. I'd found it on clearance last month, thinking it was elegant enough for a wedding, but as I glanced around, I realized everyone else looked like they'd stepped out of a designer catalog. "Darcy." My mom's cheerful voice pulled me out of my thoughts. She was waving from a table near the front, looking beautiful in a soft pastel blue gown. She was already chatting with Aunt Lisa, Emily's mom, and a few other relatives. I forced a smile and walked over. "Hi, Mom. You look lovely," she said, squeezing my hand. "Thanks," I murmured, though I didn't feel lovely. That's when I saw Emily. She looked like a goddess. Her dress was a masterpiece of satin and lace, with a dramatic train and sheer sleeves that sparkled under the sunlight. Her blonde hair cascaded down in soft curls, and her makeup was so flawless it didn't look real. Emily moved through the crowd with the confidence of royalty, greeting guests with warm smiles and hugs. I felt invisible. Like I always did. I tried to blend in, grabbing a glass of champagne from a passing waiter and hovering near my mom. That's when a tall, handsome man approached me. "Mind if I sit here?" he asked, flashing a friendly smile. "Go ahead," I said, startled. He introduced himself as Ethan, one of the groomsmen. We started chatting, and to my surprise, I found myself laughing and feeling at ease. Soon, a couple of other groomsmen joined us. They were all charming, joking around and complimenting my dress. For the first time in a long time, I felt noticed. But someone else noticed too. Emily's smile faltered as she glanced over at us. It was only for a second, but I caught it, the quick flash of irritation before she turned back to her conversation. I shrugged it off. She was probably just stressed. Brides are allowed to be on edge on their wedding day. The ceremony began shortly after. Guests gathered around a breathtaking floral archway while soft piano music played in the background. Emily glided down the aisle like she was walking a runway, her veil catching the light as she approached Ryan, who stood at the altar looking like the happiest man alive. They exchanged vows, and everyone sighed and dabbed at their eyes. The whole thing felt like a scene from a romantic movie. When they kissed, the applause was thunderous. Emily basked in it, her smile wide and radiant. And me? I clapped politely, already planning how early I could leave without offending anyone. But then came the reception, and everything changed. The band struck up a lively tune, and people began to dance. I sat at my table, sipping champagne, content to watch. But Ethan wasn't having it. "Come on, Darcy," he said, holding out his hand. "You can't just sit there all night." I laughed nervously. "I'm not really a dancer." He grinned. "That's fine. I'll lead." Before I could protest, he pulled me onto the dance floor. At first, I stumbled, but Ethan was a great dancer, guiding me effortlessly. Soon, I was laughing and spinning, completely forgetting my nerves. The music was infectious, and my confidence grew. People started clapping along. "Wow! You're amazing," someone shouted. I blushed, shaking my head. I wasn't that good, I was just having fun. But the crowd seemed to love it. More guests joined in, and suddenly, we were the center of attention. And that's when I noticed Emily. She stood near the head table, her champagne glass clenched tight. Her smile was gone. She was glaring at me. My stomach sank. I quickly excused myself when the song ended, cheeks flushed. I hadn't meant to draw attention. I hadn't meant for any of this. But the damage was done. The rest of the evening felt tense. Emily's eyes followed me like a hawk. I tried to stay seated, chatting with my mom and a few relatives, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd somehow committed a crime by existing. Then came the first dance. Emily and Ryan swayed under the twinkling lights, looking like they belonged in a bridal magazine. The crowd watched in awe. But Emily wasn't watching Ryan. She was watching me. Halfway through the song, she whispered something to him. He glanced at me, confusion flickering across his face, then nodded. The second the song ended, Emily marched straight toward me. "Darcy," she said sweetly, her voice low but sharp. "Can I talk to you for a second?" I stiffened. "Sure." She grabbed my wrist and pulled me down a dimly lit path toward the garden. When we were out of sight, she spun around. Her face was twisted with anger. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" she hissed. "What?" I said, startled. "Don't play dumb. You're stealing my spotlight." I blinked. "Emily, I was just dancing. You were showing off. You've always been jealous of me, and now you're trying to upstage me on my wedding day? Pathetic." Her words stung, just like they always had. "I wasn't trying to steal your spotlight," I said quietly. "I was just having fun." Emily scoffed. "You knew exactly what you were doing. You're going to sit down, stay out of the way, and stop trying to make this about you. Got it?" I stared at her, stunned. "Are you serious right now?" "I'm the bride," she sneered. "This is my day. Don't ruin it." Without another word, she turned on her heel and marched back to the reception. I stood there for a moment, heart pounding. I'd never seen Emily like this, so openly hostile, so ready to humiliate me. For a split second, I considered leaving. I even opened my phone to call an Uber. But then I stopped. Why should I leave? I hadn't done anything wrong. So I squared my shoulders, tucked my phone away, and walked back to the party. What I didn't know was that Emily wasn't finished. Not even close. And by the end of the night, this wedding would turn into a disaster no one would ever forget. When I walked back into the reception tent, I felt like everyone was staring at me, even if they weren't. The fairy lights twinkled overhead, guests laughed and clinked glasses, and the band transitioned into another upbeat song. From the outside, it was perfect. But I knew Emily, and I knew that behind her picture-perfect smile, she was furious. I took my seat at my mom's table and forced a smile. She was chatting happily with Aunt Lisa, completely unaware of what had just happened outside. I didn't want to ruin her mood, so I stayed quiet, pretending everything was fine. But every time I glanced up, Emily was watching me. Dinner was served, a lavish three-course meal with filet mignon, roasted vegetables, and champagne. I tried to enjoy it, but I could feel Emily's glare burning into me from across the tent. She looked like she was barely holding herself together, her smile brittle whenever someone approached her table. The best man gave his toast first, cracking jokes and sharing sweet stories about Ryan. Everyone laughed and clapped. Then Emily's maid of honor, her best friend, Olivia, took the microphone. "Emily, you've always been like a sister to me," Olivia gushed. "And seeing you so happy today, it's all I've ever wanted for you." Emily dabbed at her eyes with a perfectly folded napkin, basking in the attention. Ryan squeezed her hand lovingly. The entire room felt warm and emotional. Then, halfway through Olivia's speech, I made the mistake of glancing at Emily. She wasn't crying tears of joy. She was watching me. I looked away quickly, focusing on my plate. This was ridiculous. I danced for one song. One. And now Emily was treating me like I'd personally ruined her wedding. After Olivia's speech, Emily and Ryan stood to thank everyone for coming. Emily's voice trembled with emotion as she spoke about love, family, and their future together. She was radiant, glowing in that way brides do. For a moment, I almost forgot our earlier confrontation. Then she glanced at me again, and I remembered everything. When the music started up again, guests returned to the dance floor. I stayed seated, determined not to draw any more attention to myself. Ethan passed by and offered me his hand with a grin. Round 2, he teased. I smiled apologetically. I think I'll sit this one out. He shrugged good-naturedly and headed off to dance with another guest. I thought I was being respectful, staying out of the way. But Emily clearly didn't see it that way. About half an hour later, Emily strutted over to my table, her heels clicking against the wooden floor. She stopped beside me, her smile tight. "Darcy," she said sweetly, loud enough for others to hear. "Could you come with me for a sec?" I froze. Everyone at the table looked at us curiously. Sure," I said, standing. She led me toward the bar area, out of earshot but still in sight of the guests. "What did I say earlier?" she hissed, her voice venomous. My stomach dropped. "Emily, I'm not. You promised to stay out of the way. But everyone keeps asking about you." I blinked. "What? Who's that girl in the burgundy dress?" "Who's Darcy?" she mocked, mimicking the guests' voices. "You're distracting people, Darcy. This is my wedding. Not yours." I didn't ask anyone to talk to me, I shot back. Emily's smile faltered. "You're wearing that dress on purpose, aren't you? Burgundy. Really? You knew it would stand out." I stared at her in disbelief. "It's just a dress, Emily." "Sure it is," she sneered. "You've always been desperate for attention." "Are you kidding me?" My voice rose, and a couple of guests glanced our way. I lowered it quickly. "I didn't even want to come, Emily. You think I'm here to upstage you? Get over yourself." Her eyes narrowed. "If you don't want to be here, maybe you should leave." My heart pounded. "Maybe I will." "Good," she spat, before spinning on her heel and starting back toward the dance floor. I stood frozen, humiliated. This wasn't just bridezilla behavior, this was cruel. Emily had always been competitive with me, but this felt different. I wanted to leave. I even pulled out my phone to order a ride. But then I saw my mom across the room, laughing with Aunt Lisa, so happy to be there. If I left, she'd notice. She'd ask questions. She'd worry. So I put my phone away. I wasn't going to let Emily chase me out. I returned to my table and plastered on a smile. But my hands trembled as I sipped my champagne. The rest of the evening blurred together. Guests laughed and danced, oblivious to the tension between Emily and me. I stayed in my seat, barely speaking to anyone. But every so often, I caught Emily glaring at me. It felt like the calm before a storm. And I was right. Around 9 o'clock, after hours of dancing and drinking, Ryan grabbed the microphone to thank everyone again. "We're so grateful for all of you," he said warmly. "This has been the happiest day of my life." Emily beamed at him, glowing with pride. "And of course," he continued, "we couldn't have done it without our families." Emily's parents raised their glasses. My mom smiled. Everyone clapped. Then Ryan handed Emily the mic. "I just want to say," Emily began, her voice sugary sweet, "how much it means to me to have everyone here tonight. Friends, family, cousins." Her eyes landed on me. My stomach sank. "You know," Emily continued, her smile widening, "when I was planning this wedding, I worried about things going wrong. I worried about rain, or the flowers arriving late, or my dress not fitting. But I never expected competition." A few guests chuckled uncertainly. "Competition?" someone echoed. Emily's eyes didn't leave mine. "Some people just can't help themselves, can they? Even on someone else's big day." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. My face burned. "Emily," Ryan said softly, tugging her hand, but she ignored him. "I just think," she said loudly, "that some people should remember that this is my wedding. My moment. Not theirs." I felt like the floor had disappeared beneath me. Everyone was staring. "Emily, that's enough," Ryan whispered, clearly embarrassed. But Emily wasn't done. "She's been trying to get attention all night," she said, gesturing toward me. First dancing like she's auditioning for Dancing with the Stars, now sitting there pretending to be innocent. It's pathetic. Gasps echoed through the tent. My mom stood, her face pale. Emily. Aunt Lisa hissed. What are you doing? Emily's smile faltered for the first time. She seemed to realize she'd gone too far, but it was too late. Wow, I said, my voice trembling but loud enough for everyone to hear. You really couldn't let me have one moment of fun, could you? Emily's eyes widened. You spent your whole life trying to make me feel small, I continued. And guess what? You succeeded. I've never felt good enough next to you. But tonight, I wasn't thinking about you. I was just dancing. The room was dead silent. I didn't come here to steal your spotlight, Emily, I said softly. I came here because we're family. Because I wanted to support you. Emily's face turned crimson. Darcy, maybe you should, Ryan started. No, I interrupted. Maybe Emily should think about why she feels so threatened by me. The tension was unbearable. Guests whispered among themselves, unsure of what to do. Finally, Emily spun on her heel and stormed out of the tent. Ryan followed her, looking mortified. The crowd erupted into hushed conversations. I sat back down, shaking. My mom reached for my hand, her eyes full of concern. Are you okay? She whispered. I nodded, though I wasn't. For the next 30 minutes, the reception carried on awkwardly. Guests tried to resume dancing, but the mood was ruined. Emily didn't come back, and neither did Ryan. I thought about leaving, but part of me wanted to see how this would play out. Sure enough, around 10 o'clock, Emily returned, her makeup smudged, her eyes red. Ryan trailed behind her, looking exhausted. She grabbed another glass of champagne and downed it in one gulp. Then she got back on the microphone. I'm sorry, she slurred slightly. I didn't mean to make a scene earlier. Ryan rubbed his temples. Emily's voice cracked. I've spent so much time making everything perfect. And then Darcy. Emily. Aunt Lisa snapped. Emily froze. I think that's enough, Aunt Lisa said firmly, standing. You've embarrassed yourself enough for one night. Emily's jaw dropped. Go sit down, Aunt Lisa ordered. For once, Emily obeyed. The rest of the night was a blur. Guests left early, murmuring about family drama. My mom and I stayed until the end, helping Aunt Lisa gather gifts and decorations. Emily sulked in the corner, glaring at me every chance she got. As I finally slid into my Uber, exhaustion hit me like a truck. I'd never been so humiliated in my life. But this wasn't over. Emily wasn't the type to let things go. And I had no idea just how far she was willing to take it. I barely slept that night. The Uber ride home was quiet, my mom gripping my hand the whole way, her face tight with anger, not at me, but at Emily. When I finally crawled into bed, my phone buzzed nonstop with notifications. Instagram tags, Facebook updates, texts from cousins, OMG, what happened? That wedding was a disaster. Are you okay? I ignored all of it. I was humiliated, drained, and furious. Emily had humiliated me in front of everyone we knew. She'd turned a beautiful celebration into a circus just to make a point. I was not allowed to outshine her, not even for a second. But what gnawed at me most was the way Ryan had looked at me during her outburst, mortified, apologetic, almost sad. I brushed the thought aside and tried to sleep, but my brain wouldn't shut off. The next morning, my mom called me before I even had my first cup of coffee. Darcy, she said gently. I spoke to Aunt Lisa. I groaned. Of course you did. She's furious with Emily, Mom said. She said Emily embarrassed herself and the family. She's planning to call her out later today. Good, I muttered. She also said Emily's not handling things well. That didn't surprise me. Emily had always hated looking bad in front of people. I'm staying out of it, I said firmly. I don't want to hear from her, Mom. I didn't do anything wrong. I know, sweetheart, Mom said. But you know Emily. She's going to make herself the victim if she can. I sighed. Let her. I thought that would be the end of it. That I'd never have to deal with Emily's drama again. But I was wrong. 2 days later, I got a message from Ryan. Hey, Darcy. Can we talk? I froze. Why would Ryan be messaging me? I barely knew him. I typed back, about what? About the wedding. Please. I just need to talk to someone who's not her mom. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet him at a small coffee shop downtown. When I walked in, Ryan looked exhausted. He had dark circles under his eyes, and his shirt was wrinkled like he hadn't slept. Hey, he said, standing to hug me awkwardly. Thanks for coming. No problem, I said, sitting down. You look rough. He chuckled bitterly. That's one way to put it. We ordered coffees and sat in tense silence for a moment. Finally, Ryan sighed. I'm sorry, he said. For what happened at the wedding. You don't need to apologize, I said quickly. You didn't do anything. I didn't stop her, he said quietly. I should have. But he ran a hand through his hair. I didn't know how to handle it. Emily's been like this for a while. Like what? I asked cautiously. He hesitated, glancing around like he was afraid someone would overhear. Controlling. Insecure. She has to be perfect all the time, and if anyone makes her feel overshadowed, she lashes out. I didn't know what to say. She's been planning that wedding for over a year, Ryan continued. Every detail had to be perfect. Every guest had to wear certain colors. I thought it was just wedding stress, but, after what she did to you, he shook his head. I frowned. Ryan, you don't have to explain. Emily and we've always had issues. Yeah, I noticed, he said wryly. But Darcy, that wasn't normal. What she did to you. That was cruel. I looked away, uncomfortable. It's fine. I'm used to it. He leaned forward. You shouldn't be. We sat in silence for a moment. I didn't know what he wanted me to say. I don't know if I can do this, Ryan said finally, his voice low. I blinked. Do what? Be married to her. My jaw dropped. Ryan. I know. I know it's insane to say that days after our wedding. But Darcy, he rubbed his temples. I feel like I don't even know her anymore. I swallowed hard. This conversation was veering into dangerous territory. Maybe you two just need to talk, I said carefully. We've been talking, he said bitterly. She doesn't listen. She doesn't see me. All she cares about is appearances. Control. Ryan, I'm not the person you should be telling this to, I said firmly. You need to talk to a friend. Or a therapist. He sighed. You're right. I'm sorry. I don't know who else to talk to. When I got home, I couldn't shake the conversation. Ryan had looked so lost, so defeated. And part of me, ashamedly, felt vindicated. Emily had made me feel small my whole life. To hear her own husband question their marriage, it was a small, bitter comfort. But that comfort didn't last long. Because Emily found out we'd met. It started with a phone call 2 days later. Why were you with Ryan? She demanded the second I answered. I froze. What? Don't play dumb, Darcy. I know you met with him. He reached out to me, I said quickly. He wanted to talk about what happened at the wedding. You had no right, she snapped. You're trying to make me look bad, aren't you? No, Emily. Stay away from him. Do you hear me? Her voice was shrill. If you talk to my husband again, I'll make sure the entire family knows what kind of person you really are. My stomach churned. Emily, you're being paranoid. Am I? She hissed. You've always been jealous of me. Now you're trying to ruin my marriage. Pathetic. She hung up before I could respond. I sat there in stunned silence, my hands trembling. Emily had always been mean, but this felt different. This felt dangerous. I called my mom, tears welling in my eyes, and told her everything. She was livid. I'm calling Lisa, Mom said. This has gone too far. But I begged her not to. I didn't want to start more drama. Sweetheart, Emily needs help, Mom said gently. This isn't normal behavior. I knew she was right. But I also knew Emily would never admit she was wrong. The next family gathering was a disaster waiting to happen. Aunt Lisa invited everyone over for a post-wedding brunch the following weekend. I almost didn't go, but my mom insisted. We're family, she said firmly. We're not going to let Emily scare us away. So I went. And of course, Emily was there, looking flawless as ever. You'd never guess she'd humiliated herself in front of an entire wedding guest list a week ago. She greeted everyone with hugs and smiles, like nothing had happened. When she saw me, her smile didn't falter, but her eyes were ice. Darcy, she said sweetly, pulling me into a stiff hug. So glad you could make it. Thanks for having me, I said through gritted teeth. For most of the brunch, Emily ignored me. I sat quietly with my mom and a few cousins, trying to stay out of her way. But halfway through the meal, Emily raised her champagne glass and tapped it with a spoon. Can I have everyone's attention? She said brightly. The room quieted. I just wanted to thank you all for being here today, Emily said, her voice smooth. Ryan and I are so grateful for your support. And I also wanted to clear the air about some drama at the wedding. My stomach dropped. Some of you may have noticed a little tension that night, Emily continued with a laugh. I was under a lot of stress, and I may have overreacted to certain situations. She glanced at me. But, she said sweetly, I think it's important for everyone to know that Darcy has always been a bit competitive. She loves attention. And I love her for it. Don't we all? A few people chuckled awkwardly. She didn't mean to cause trouble, Emily said, smiling like a saint. I forgive her. Weddings are stressful for everyone. I felt like I'd been slapped. She was rewriting the narrative right in front of me, painting herself as the gracious victim while making me look like an attention-seeking brat. I opened my mouth to speak, but my mom put a hand on my arm, silently begging me not to cause a scene. So I stayed quiet. Emily raised her glass. To family, she said cheerfully. Everyone echoed her toast. I forced a smile, but inside, I was seething. Emily had humiliated me again. And this time, she'd done it with a smile. After brunch, Ryan pulled me aside. I'm so sorry, he whispered. I told her not to bring it up. I shook my head. It's fine. No, it's not, he said firmly. She's making you out to be the bad guy, and it's not fair. I sighed. Ryan, this isn't your problem. Yes, it is, he said. You're my family now too. I blinked at him, startled. She's spiraling, Ryan said quietly. I don't know how to help her. That night, I got a text from Emily. Stay away from my husband. Last warning. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. I'd had enough. Emily had controlled me my whole life, made me feel small, humiliated me at her wedding, and now she was accusing me of trying to steal her husband. For the first time, I wasn't scared of her anymore. I was angry. And I was ready to fight back. After Emily's chilling text, I sat in my room staring at my phone, hands trembling. For years, I'd avoided confrontation with her, letting her petty comments and manipulations slide because it was easier than fighting. But now? Now she was threatening me, spinning lies, and dragging my name through the mud. I was done being her scapegoat. The next day, I called my mom. I'm tired of letting Emily bully me, I said, my voice shaking. I want to tell Aunt Lisa everything. About her text. About how she treated me. My mom was quiet for a moment. I was hoping you'd say that, she finally said. She suggested we invite Aunt Lisa over for coffee. A casual, quiet talk, no drama. I agreed, but inside I was a storm of anxiety. When Aunt Lisa arrived, she looked polished and collected, as always. She hugged me warmly. Darcy, sweetheart. I'm so sorry for how Emily behaved. I want you to know I don't condone that nonsense. Her kindness almost made me cry. Thank you, I whispered. But I wasn't here just to be comforted. We sat at the table, and I showed Aunt Lisa the text Emily had sent me, stay away from my husband. Last warning. Lisa's face hardened. What is this? She thinks I'm trying to steal Ryan from her, I said bitterly. All I did was meet him for coffee because he reached out after the wedding. He needed to talk about what happened. Lisa shook her head. That girl. She's always been dramatic, but this is another level. Ryan seemed scared, I said softly. He told me Emily's been controlling. He said he doesn't even recognize her anymore. Lisa exhaled sharply. I've noticed something's been off with her for months. She's been so obsessed with perfection, her career, her appearance, this wedding. She wouldn't listen to anyone. I thought it was just stress. But this? She tapped the phone. This is dangerous. Mom nodded grimly. She's unraveling, Lisa. I don't want her to drag Darcy down with her. Lisa rubbed her temples. I don't want her marriage to fall apart, but she's sabotaging herself. I felt a pang of guilt. For all her cruelty, Emily was still my cousin. I didn't want her life to implode. But she'd left me no choice. That night, Lisa called Emily over to her house. She invited me, Mom, and Ryan too. I didn't want to go, but Lisa insisted. "This needs to end," she said firmly. So I went. Emily arrived in a chic dress, her hair and makeup flawless, like she was walking into a photo shoot. She looked around, confused to see all of us sitting in the living room. "What's going on?" she asked cautiously. "Sit down, Emily," Lisa said. Her voice was calm but firm. Emily perched on the edge of the couch, crossing her legs. "Is this some kind of intervention?" she asked with a smirk. "Yes," Lisa said bluntly. "We need to talk about your behavior." Emily's smile faltered. Lisa started calmly. "You embarrassed Darcy at your wedding, Emily. You humiliated her in front of everyone. Then you sent her a threatening text, accusing her of trying to steal your husband. That's unacceptable." Emily's face twisted in shock. "What? That's ridiculous. She's been flirting with Ryan since the rehearsal dinner. You all just don't see it." Ryan sat forward. "Emily, stop. Darcy hasn't done anything wrong. You're making up stories." Emily whipped her head toward him. "So now you're defending her? Unbelievable." "Emily," Lisa said sharply. "Enough. You've been spiraling for months. You're obsessed with control, with appearances, with being perfect. And now you're lashing out at your own family. This isn't healthy." Emily's jaw dropped. "So you're all ganging up on me now? Great. Typical." I spoke up, my voice shaking but steady. "Emily, I've put up with your comments and bullying for years. I stayed quiet because I didn't want to cause drama. But you crossed the line. You ruined your own wedding night by attacking me for no reason. And now you're accusing me of something disgusting. I'm done letting you treat me like this." Emily's face flushed red. "You're such a liar, Darcy. You've always been jealous of me. You couldn't stand that it was my wedding, my big day. I wore the color you asked me to wear," I interrupted. "I stayed out of the spotlight. You went after me because you can't handle anyone else getting attention." The room was silent. Emily's lips trembled. For a moment, I thought she'd cry. Instead, she exploded. "You think you're so innocent?" she snapped. "You've always been the golden child in this family. Aunt Lisa spoiled you. Everyone loved you. No one cared about me." I blinked, stunned. "What are you talking about? You had everything handed to you." Emily's voice cracked. "I had to work for everything. And still, no one sees me. Not Mom. Not Ryan. No one." Lisa's face softened. "Emily, honey." Emily shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "I wanted one perfect day. One day where everyone looked at me and thought I was beautiful and happy. And Darcy, you stole it. You always steal it." Her words broke my heart. Ryan reached for her hand, but she pulled away. "I don't want your pity," she whispered. "No one's pitying you," Ryan said gently. "We just want you to get help. You're not okay, Em." Emily covered her face with her hands, sobbing. "I don't need help," she whispered. "I just wanted to be perfect." Lisa scooted closer to her. "Sweetheart, no one is perfect. We love you. But you're hurting yourself. And you're hurting us." For the first time in years, Emily didn't argue. She just cried. The rest of the night was quiet and heavy. Emily eventually agreed to see a therapist. Ryan promised to go with her. Lisa hugged me tight and apologized for everything. I left feeling emotionally drained but lighter. For once, Emily wasn't the villain. She was just broken. Over the next few weeks, Emily started therapy. She reached out to me one day, voice shaky. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "For everything. For the wedding. For the texts. For being me." I swallowed hard. "I forgive you. It wasn't easy. Years of pain don't disappear overnight." But hearing her apologize felt like a weight lifting off my shoulders. Months later, Emily and Ryan renewed their vows in a small, private ceremony, just family, no drama. Emily wore a simple dress, no extravagant details, no rigid rules. She even hugged me afterward, tears in her eyes. "Thank you for being here," she whispered. "I wouldn't miss it," I said softly. We weren't magically best friends after that. But for the first time, we were, okay. Looking back, I realized that wedding wasn't just a disaster, it was a breaking point. Sometimes, the people who hurt us the most are the ones hurting inside. Emily had spent her whole life trying to be perfect because she thought it was the only way to be loved. And in her desperation, she lashed out at everyone around her, especially me. I used to think she hated me. Maybe she did, sometimes. But now I see she mostly hated herself. And for the first time in years, I have hope that we can finally heal. And that's the story of how stealing the spotlight at a wedding uncovered years of pain, jealousy, and hidden truths. What would you have done in my place? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more jaw-dropping Reddit dramas every week.